Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you are here. Now, this guy has many different roles. Yes, he was a former CFL football player. He was a TV host on Chop Canada. He also was a former Bachelor Canada. And what's so remarkable is Brad has taken all of these different experiences, and now he is having an amazing run with his call-in show that he has on the news, which is No BS with Brad Smith. Now, he is a remarkable gentleman who, again, is open. He is candid. He's really vulnerable in sharing about his experiences. And I'm so excited to be able to share this episode of Life by Design with the one and only Brad Smith with you now. So, Brad, welcome to this episode of Life by Design. I am thrilled to have you in here today to have this chat. This is so exciting.
Yeah, Dr. Robyne, I think I had you on my show about a month ago, and then ever since then, when Ashley, your producer, asked me to come on, I was like, when is it? Like, is it today? And I'm so excited. And I know I'm on the road. I'm like touring right now, but I'm
Yes,
so
you are.
excited because you really made an impact not only on me, but when you were on my show, I had so many people reach out to me to talk about how great you were at conferences and speaking events. And I was like, I know, right? She's just, you have something, you've got something. I think someone needs to tell you that.
Thank you. Well, I am deeply humbled and very appreciative of that feedback. And at the end of the day, I just love being useful. So if somebody is able to pick up a piece of information and it's useful, it's even better if it's like just in time information where it's like, damn, I needed that.
Yeah.
That's always my aspiration and my hope. So thank you for sharing that feedback.
Oh, my pleasure.
Okay, so you're like kind of a big deal in Canada and beyond. I love the fact that I remember first hearing about you when you were playing at Queen's. And as football playing at Queen's, my family is a huge football family. I need to tell you, we have had season tickets for the Argos. I'm part of the Pinball Foundation. Like, I can't even tell you how big my family is into sports. And the best part was, okay, you ready for this? So your episode drops where I got to be a guest on your show. And then my son was just like, dude, I'm like, yeah. I said, he's a really interesting, Canadian personality. He's cooking shows and he does this. He was on The Bachelor. I was giving the kids. And Hunter was like, he played for the Argos. Mom, he played for Montreal. He played for and I'm like, that's not Brad Smith. And I kid you not, when we connected before, those two dots had not been connected in my head. So I feel like I should owe you an apology because I apparently started my research with you before that, or that happened before.
Well, you would only know me if you were an Argos fan if you sat like 4 rows up behind the bench, because I never left the bench. Like, famously, I was a bench former because my priorities at that time in life were not football. Like, I was really, I say this not with arrogance, but like, I was really good in college, but that didn't transfer over into the pros because I just didn't have the mentality. I didn't have the mindset. I wasn't a killer like I should have been as far as like my discipline, my determination. So whenever somebody misses the football part, it's so good. I mean, like Dr. Robyne, they put me on the cover of a magazine to launch me as the Bachelor, and it was like former football star. And I was like, who are you trying to fool? If you can check out stats, they're awful.
Oh, no. But you had years and reps in the CFL. And I think that's a really big deal. You're part of those organizations. You're part of that legacy. That's something that you were jerseyed. You were on the bench, but you were in it and you were part of that team. And I don't think we should discount our bench players ever.
No, but at the same time, like, I'm very realistic. I come from a family that's been employed by the CFL.
Yes.
I think over 65 years. My dad was a all-star in the 70s. Then he was the CFL commissioner. My uncle was a 10-time CFL all-star. My uncles, my brother, everyone's been involved. And so I'm realistic about who I was. And
Yes.
more so than that, when I say that I'm realistic, it drives me back into that mentality of why I wasn't successful in the CFL. Like
Yeah.
dressing is good, but when you're an all Canadian, 2-time all
Yes.
Canadian, you're coming out of college, people expect something of you. When you're Larry Smith's son and he's the commissioner, people
Yes.
expect something of you. So I have to be realistic because it kicks my mind into why I'm such a good person at work now. Why I have such a good work ethic is
Yeah.
because I didn't back then because I wasn't mature enough.
Brad, I think first of all, thank you for the honesty and the vulnerability, like to be able
Of
to look
course.
back on an opportunity and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't dialed in and locked in the way I could have been, or perhaps even should have been, given the opportunities that I had, and being able to take those hard earned lessons and then apply them in the next evolution of the work that you get to do. Like that is amazing. Like that in
Yeah.
itself, like that ability to like, hey, you know what? This didn't unfold the way maybe it could have, should have, or I maybe had hope for. Yet I've taken those lessons, I'm applying them today. That's a really big deal. And it's something that I don't think necessarily people do automatically. That takes effort. It takes work to do that.
Well, not to like dive too much into mentality, but it's only been really in the last couple of years. And I don't mean that I've only got by on natural ability or all this stuff, but I don't think I was self-aware enough to understand that even if I was working to what I thought what my potential was or could be,
Yeah.
I still had way more in the gas tank. And I just
Yeah.
never want to go back to a place where you have opportunities come up and you take them for granted and then you leave them on the table because
Mhm.
um, you know, it's a gift to be able to do something that you love.
Yes.
Football, I loved football.
Yeah.
I loved being around the guys. I loved being on the team. And looking back, I always think what if, but had I not been such, an immature person back then, not realizing it, I wouldn't be where I am now and I wouldn't be able to say like, well, like, I'm shooting in Calgary right now on the road. It's a gift to be able to be in
Mhm.
this industry and be able to have a platform. And why
Yes.
wouldn't you take every opportunity you can to absolutely kill it? And so it took me a while, but at least I'm self-aware enough to realize that I can't screw up because if those opportunities pass me by, it's only on me.
Yeah, totally. And again, you're that's like extreme ownership, right? Like you're owning your piece, which I think is so remarkable. And I also just think it gives so much again confidence and just maybe even just a wee bit of encouragement for other people when we think about like second careers, or we think about kind of defining or co-creating our future in terms of like what do we do next. And again, it's not that we have to like close that chapter and never look at it again. And perhaps some of our decisions we're like, yeah, I don't really want to go back. And also recognizing we're allowed to reinvent ourselves. We're allowed to change our mind. We're allowed to seek out new opportunities. And maybe just because one didn't work out the way we had hoped doesn't mean that precludes us from having a big, bright future in something else, and to be able to be the top of your field, top of your game in a new discipline, in a new area.
I love that you said that because when you were on my show, I brought you on because of this clip that you had where it's like if you hold an emotion or
Motion.
moment and process it for 90 seconds, it's ironic because in the last month I've been thinking about that a lot. I do it before I go to bed, and whereas most people would see what I just said about owning my being naive in the past, they would think that is rumination and like
Yeah.
digging in, and it might cause depression. Where it's like, no, you know what? I've like let it go. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I just have to be hyper aware that, uh, and not just me, but everybody out there. Like if you don't take these opportunities, and then when they go by, and you're sitting there and you're going, "What if?" That is a
Yeah.
way bigger killer than not just putting the extra effort in the moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And, it was interesting. It was Dr. Ross who introduced this idea on the podcast a wee while ago about what he coined the fear of hope. And this idea that for many of us, we're actually scared to get our hopes up because we hold hope so dearly. And he gave the
Yeah.
example of like somebody with an addiction who has gone for repeated episodes or times to try and change that behavior, but they haven't really actually gone all in, because the idea if they did go all in, Brad, and it didn't work out, like that would just like absolutely crush them. So they like show up kind of like 90%, but they don't go all in. They like save just a wee bit in reserve or in the tank, because that idea of trying and it not working would absolutely shatter their hope. And people who have, interestingly, from a stats perspective, folks who have the highest degree of fear of hope are actually the people who can hold the most hope. So it's this amazing piece. And what I hear you saying, and that's what it kind of cued for me, is that now you know what it feels like when you kind of left a little bit in the tank, and now how you're showing up professionally and personally, like you're locking in because you've learned that that regret feels way worse than perhaps like the disappointment that something didn't work out. And you know, it might not have worked out, but it's not because you didn't try. It's not because you didn't give all in.
I've I've had a really unique last 2012, so 14 years, because after leaving football, um, I wouldn't say unceremoniously, but I had an injury, and I just decided enough is enough. The transition to TV was so quick because,
Yeah.
these people found me for this show that most of my friends were like, please,
Yeah.
Brad, please don't do this. Please,
Don't
I'm
do
not joking. Please, they want to
Yeah.
put you as the bachelor. Like, don't do this. This is going to ruin you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was in the 28-year-old mind or 29. I just knew if I got the opportunity, having gone through football, having gone through I'll always be in my dad's shadow, that this could be my platform to separate the football, the Larry Smith,
Yeah.
and that kind of phase. But I've been through 4 iterations now. I mean, I've had 3 shows that were like #1 shows
Yes.
canceled. And when you sit there and you go, is anybody going to call? Is anyone going to pick up the phone? Am I good enough? And realizing, okay, is it in my control? Like, can I put myself out there more? And it just clicked that every time I got the next opportunity, you're like, God, people don't even get a second chance in
That's
TV.
right.
Or radio or media. I'm on
Yeah.
my 4th chance. And why is that? And instead of looking at that in the arrogance of what I've done well, I make like a checklist of, what was my working environment like? What did my producers say? Not the
Yeah.
on camera or the on air stuff. Like, what did the people around my work environment say? And did they say that he showed up first, he left
Mhm.
last, and did he work hard? And regardless of what goes on, like the talent or lack thereof in my case,
Yeah.
at least I know at this point I'm going to work harder than you. And if not, and if it doesn't produce the talent side of it, I still can leave being like, gosh, at least I gave him my all, because it is
Yeah.
such a fickle industry. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And also just the fact that, like, what I marvel about the work that you've done in many different iterations, places, and spaces, you are opening yourself up for feedback, criticism, judgment, people's ideas of you. It's
Ironic
literally
if you
like
knew me
you're,
before.
yeah, it's like you're performing a living autopsy, right? When people like see your work in the world. And I'm just like, how does someone manage that? Because even just your friends, when you had the opportunity with The Bachelor, were just like, dude, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, call a friend. I'm pulling you out of this, but you went anyway and opened yourself up to feedback. And again, good and bad. And I'm just so curious, like, what's Brad Smith's strategy for that feedback, the people's opinions? Like,
Oh,
how are you stick handling that?
I got goosebumps there because that one hits me
Mhm.
because if people the people that really know me know that uniquely I don't love being the center of attention in
Mhm.
media. If we're out with friends and family, I love people that I'm comfortable with. I will be the biggest personality. I'll try to
Yeah.
make everyone laugh. Around big groups and stuff like that, I retract. It's such a weird thing. I
Yeah.
am a very, very insecure person in nature. I have always been. I've always had to fight against what people thought about me. But it's almost as if I get the opportunity, if the job comes, I go through the audition or interview process and I get the job, somewhere in behind all this confusion of insecurity is this innate belief that when the opportunity comes, I'll kill it. And
Yeah.
that's so hard to explain to people because I hate negativity. If I'm
Yeah.
if I'm hosting an event, Dr. Robin, and there's like 1,000 people out and I'm doing an MC gala, I can pick out the 3 people that absolutely despise the fact that I'm there. And my whole night is about making them
And
laugh,
yes. Yes.
breaking them down. And I
Yeah.
don't know what that is, but it also transfers into like I'm not good at social media. I can't be the one putting myself out there for some reason, which is something I really need to work on in this industry. But if you set up a studio, set up a stage and say this is the job, I can just go do it
You
no
do it.
matter uh, how much you can lay your soul bare
Yes.
for criticism. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I think you're explaining it very, very well, actually, right? It's understanding kind of, you know who you are, you know what your strengths are, you understand kind of areas where that doesn't feel like it's kind of, that doesn't feel good. And you kind of navigate your way through it. And again, I think there's enormous amounts of clarity that comes when we just kind of recognize that, like, we don't have to be amazing or love every single part of what we're doing. Figuring out where you are, like where you're, solid, where it feels good, where it flows really positive energetically, not woo, like science, like literally when you're on stage and you're like finding that challenge of those three wee resistors in the crowd, and you use that to channel some of that fuel. Like that's a lot of insight into recognizing it. And I can relate on a small level in that, in the sense that, I can go into a room and, talk to 6,000 people at an event, and then they're like, oh, there's a cocktail hour afterwards. And it's literally my kryptonite, unless the person I am with
hiding in the back.
Oh, exactly. I'm literally, unless the person wants to talk about sports or trivia. Like if you like sit beside me and be like, hey, do you want to talk about random trivia? Yes, I do. But if you're just
stop
like,
it. Is that real?
Oh, yes. Like literally trivia, like just random pieces of random information.
I love it.
ADHD and trivia. Like I feel like that should be a thing, because we don't know what to pay attention to. So we pay attention to everything. And so we just have like copious amounts of misinformation or real information that just doesn't have a place. So anyway.
How do you deal with criticism though? I mean, because,
not well.
No, because when you're up there and you're giving people like life advice or like affirmations or directional sense of how to move forward, I mean, you're putting yourself out there for a lot of people to go, does she know? Because again, in an opinion business, the hardest thing back sometimes is to see so many people not jive with your opinion. I can't believe I just said jive.
Yeah, I appreciate the big question. And I can share with you, for me, what's been pretty significant in this space, in this iteration of my career is essentially like getting out ahead of it. So for example, as somebody who has dropped out of high school, I have no problem acknowledging, yes, I did drop out of high school. Yes, I navigated a super tricky adolescence. Yes, I've overcome addictions. And yes, I've been married before. And like, I find that because I own those parts, it just, so if somebody was to come up, for example, and say like, oh, I went to high school with her and she dropped out. It's like, yeah, I've already acknowledged that. Like, I'm not suggesting in any way that I haven't had kind of a bumpy road to what I'm doing. And so that's kind of part of it, is just like owning my stuff, right? Just full acceptance of like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. That is part of my story. It's not the whole story though. So that's the first part. And the second part is to recognize ultimately what I'm doing is offering invitations. There's things that I see to be true in the research, in practicality, when I'm coaching folks. Like these are things that I see help. And at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people handle the hard parts better. And if it's for you, that's great. And if it's not, that's okay too. Yeah. So those are those two pieces for me.
You want to know something crazy is that I don't know if I've ever actually said this out loud, and it's not like it's super like inside baseball, but when I went on The Bachelor, I was a fan of the show. I love terrible reality TV, and like I'm not just saying that because I was the guy. Like I used to watch it, and I'll say something very inappropriate right now, which is I lived with one of my teammates from the Toronto Argonauts, Tyler Scott, and his wife. And we used to watch it, and his wife Kelly one time said to me, she's like, well, Brad, like, oh my God, you'd be so good. Like, what would you do? And I made the flippant joke. Well, if I was the Bachelor, it would be one night and we'd have 3 condoms, 2 roses, 1 ring. Just joking.
Yes.
But I then 3 years later was the guy. And then when I came off, never been interviewed in the CFL really, unless it was about being Larry Smith's son.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the format of the show and who I was like, okay, well, let's get ahead of this with humor. So when I did my first rollout in all my interviews, I use self-deprecation as the biggest tool. I was getting ahead of every single joke that people could make fun of me for, and it worked so well. Now, to kind of like juxtapose that, I did it for so much of my career after that I really truly believe I started thinking that I was the self-deprecating version of myself. And after COVID, I found myself sitting there. I lost restaurants, lost TV shows. And I was like, oh, did I just manifest becoming the version of myself that I joke about? And it took me a while to get out of it, because what you say out loud didn't realize really affects you.
Totally it does. Your body's always listening, right? And it's our identity piece, right? And Brad, thank you for sharing that. And
No
again, it
worries.
ties into that identity piece, is that if we see ourselves as someone who is always at the kind of at the brunt of the joke, or we see ourselves as not being locked in or serious, then yeah, it's likely we're going to start to exhibit behaviors and patterns and routines that allow that identity piece to become true. And it's even, I can share with you on a similar kind of notion. It's like, being told my whole life that ADHD was like a problem or a brokenness or like you're not normal. It's not hard for me to see why all of a sudden I made decisions in my adolescence that would not be perceived as the linear path or the normal path, because I was told my whole life that you're different. So I was like, okay, so I went and did things differently. Right.
Did you know from a young age?
So I didn't have a diagnosis at a young age, but I remember being in kindergarten, Brad, like literally sitting in circle time in kindergarten, realizing that like, I think that something is different about me than the kids that are around me. Like I felt othered, like little. And again, it was just that, again, so interesting when we look at gender differences for young children. The typical ADHD is the little boy, right? Like the boy who's bouncing off the walls. For young girls, it's an internal energy. So rapid thoughts, difficulty navigating social situations, reading cues, not sure what to pay attention of, having to stay, busy enough just to be distracted enough that I could pay attention, like just some of the things where it was just a wee bit more tricky to be me in a machine type of learning, which is school systems, right? So,
that's
but again,
insane.
people tell you you're different. So then all of a sudden you start to, you be different, right? You start acting different. And then as, fast forward a couple decades and all of a sudden I realized like, damn, having ADHD is like a superpower. Like it has served me so well. My kids will tell you I'm a very entertaining parent, right? Like because you never know what you're going to get, right? In the morning, it could be Mary Poppins. By the end of the day, it's Batman, right? Where it's like, getting, children gather around. And by the end of it, it's like, get into the damn car, right? Like you can oscillate between extremes. But like, again, once we start realizing like, oh, these are skills that I could use for good, when we start to identify these parts of my personality or these parts of my temperament that are good, all of a sudden the good just comes in with this like wave of abundance versus the scarcity or the limitations that we're setting on ourselves with our own identities.
I love that. I mean, it's hard for me because I got diagnosed at 36 years old. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I knew that I was ADHD. I knew that the way that I was learning and processing the world was very different. When I was a kid, we moved so much, and I would remember feeling this overwhelming sense of anxiety every time I'd go into a new school, like Lisa Smith, please don't bring me in there. Please, like, you just don't understand. I'm not going to make friends. It was always doom and gloom. And because I knew that school wasn't my thing. I knew that like, I didn't think I was stupid, but I had people like in grade 3, they came in because they told my mom, like, we got to give him a test. We think he's slow. Like, we don't think that he's able. They sat me down alone in a room by myself. And then they go, we think he's gifted. And my mom's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? But then you go from, I skipped a grade, worst thing that ever happened. But then you go my entire academic career where I could not get good grades, but I could do well on tests. And I could remember everything from anything that you've ever said. And you talk about trivia. I'm like, I'll beat anybody's butt at Jeopardy without even thinking about it. And then just to your point, and not to bring it back, but like now I realize that of all the things that I know are, hindrances from having ADHD, like you said, like your tendency towards addiction. I'm an extremist, like a bad extremist. I can't settle. I'm not the greatest sleeper. I'm either all in or all out. I'm either the worst version of my body or the best. But I am starting now to understand that, like you said, it's a superpower as long as you focus on what clicks your ADHD in. And the other stuff, like you'll sit down at a computer, you'll type forever. You have to find ways to get access to people that help you out in your life that can do those things. For me personally, because my mind just can't wrap around it. But the things it can do is it can understand how to read people, how to make people laugh, and then how to create interesting conversations from
Yes.
both sides of a spectrum without diving into ideology, because I just
Yes.
can't believe in it, because my mind's going, I believe this, I believe that,
And a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Yeah. And it's so fascinating, Brad. And again, thank you for sharing the parts of your story,
No
is the
worries.
idea that we know, and it was from Alex Partridge's book that talks about the average child with ADHD receives 20,000 more critiques than a normal developing child. So if you imagine that we growing up would likely receive 20,000 more corrections than the average bear, no wonder we navigate, like we're fueled by this, flow of anxiety, right? Because we're these little social chameleons where we're just trying to fit in. We're trying to figure out how to, ensure that we are safe, that we are good. But when we have experienced learning, and again, 20,000 corrections, we're going to be a wee bit sensitive to all of it. And when we start understanding that, it's like, okay, so I do have these forces, this energetic force that's, again, as you said, we don't just have hobbies. We like take on new identities in different moments in time where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to become a CrossFitter, right? And then it's like, clearly it's the CrossFit Games for me, right?
Of course.
It is not just, we're going to like go to the gym, right?
No.
And even it's so funny, like this weekend, I'm actually doing a Tough Mudder with, it's actually funny, with my daughter and my son's girlfriends. Okay. So it's the four of us. And it was so interesting because all of my family has said to me, this is for participation. And I'm like, I know we're participating. And they're like, Mom, like, no, this is for fun. This is for community. And I'm like, nope. Well, yeah, I get it. And then
I totally understand. I will totally not compete at all.
I'm like, and it's like, it's not that I'm competing against the ladies. It's literally, it's like us versus everybody else. Right. And I'm like, God, that will be fun, right? Like that will be community. That will be. And so again, the way that my brain goes, it's like, well, what is the fastest that anyone has possibly finished this course? Right. And it's like, this isn't that. And I can tell you, as a fellow Canadian, I think you might appreciate this. I passed on this to my children because I still remember Hunter would have been like, he's my oldest. So he's like 22 now, but when he was a little fry, he was like 7. And I remember we were getting ready to do the fall in Ontario. We're doing the Terry Fox run, right? That's what we are doing. And we are there on this beautiful morning. And Hunter leans over and he said, how far are we running? And I, at the time, I'm like, dude, this is just 5K. And he's like, what was Terry's time? And I was just like, oh, I've missed a very key learning with my child in that moment. And I was just like, oh, sweet Jesus, we need to go to Scholastics and the book fair and get you the book on Terry Fox, because we are not trying to beat Terry's record. But again, so competition comes very naturally in our family. So yeah,
it's funny that you say that, because again, my ADHD in sports manifests in laziness sometimes, because in football I was a sprinter, right? Everything was within 10 to 15 seconds. So the thought of walking somewhere for a long time or running for distance, I'm not lying to you. I don't think I walked over 10 kilometers in my adult life. I took cabs everywhere because I was just like, oh, I sprint for a living. And then, so, I start realizing you got to control this thing. 38 years old, 39 years old, I start running, right? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go, get a nice pair of running shoes. I'm going to go out. I'm going to be a distance runner. Just got to train my mind around it. Well, I don't think I'd ever run since I was a kid over 10K. Well, within 3 weeks, I ran marathon distance.
Yes, you did.
Just because I'm an absolute savage, and I can't go to a gym anymore. I can't. I have to work out at home, because if I see somebody lifting weights, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I'll bend over and deadlift, 4 plates on the first day because I can. And you're just, it's almost psychopathic sometimes. What will happen, and you just avoid it. And you're like, no, I'll be good this time. And then it switches, and you just. Next thing you know, you're running a marathon in 3 weeks. Like that's
remarkable, literally. And I feel like we're kindred spirits, because I had like jet lag. I'd only slept for 2 hours. It was like, okay, I'm just going to get a few kilometers in because I'm training for an event comparable to Everest summit, but you have 36 hours to climb Blackcomb 8 times in, again, 36 hours. Speaking of just extreme things. Anyway,
so I'm like, punishment.
I know. Yeah. 29029. But this is the best part. So I'm like, oh, I should just get got to get a few steps in. And again, 2 hours sleep. I had 4 events that day. Like I was like, okay, just 10 minutes even on the treadmill, just to like move my body. And I literally get on the treadmill and I'm just like, literally like so slow. I'm only going to do this for 10 minutes just to kind of wake up. And then this little adorable, probably an ALO influencer, whoever gets on the treadmill beside me. And I looked at her and literally I was just like, I just embraced it that I'm probably going to do the fastest 5K I've done in a decade. And yes, I did. Yes,
did they ever tell you? I had every single runner come up to me because I have scoliosis from years of bad football hits, and so like I had a trainer, a physio guy who was a runner as well. He's like, Brad, like every other time you run, you can't be going for distance time. You have to be going to recover. And I'm like, yeah, no worry, I'm gonna do it. No worries. Like today, I'm gonna go out and I got my watch on, and we're gonna do 6.5-minute kilometers, nice and easy. It's gonna be great. You look down at your watch after the first one, and you're like 4:22. I'm like, slow down, like, just slow down. And you can't. Can I ask you something? Like when you're like when you manifested ADHD as a kid, because you said it's so different between guys and girls. Like when I'm talking and I'm saying my experience, is it like prototypically guy ADHD versus what yours was?
Yeah. So, and I think what happens is like, if left to our own devices, this is my understanding of pathology, is that they actually would look quite similar, but young girls are taught or conditioned or groomed very early that like we don't do things like that, right? So like boys will be boys, whereas girls get kind of like we get you have to sit down, where boys get sent in the hall, right? We get sat closer to the teacher, the boys miss recess. So I think what actually happens is socialization makes more of a gender difference than gender differences alone, right? So, the little girls are conditioned very quickly not to be disruptive, whereas I think boys get a wee bit more latitude. And so I think it gets parent differently. It gets like teachers treat it differently. Society treats it differently. And I think that's more the through line, Brad, than it being like a fundamental physiological difference between genders. But there's people who know way more about that than I do. I can only speak of my lived experience. But I think that ties into it. I also know it is super fun as a grown-up because when we are interested in something, like we can so lock in, and it's
can you switch that though? Can you switch that in your mind? Like if you're not interesting, have you figured out your like step-by-step process on how to create something? Like for me, okay? Like we talk about like me not being great at social media because I hate being the one presenting myself. Well, I know that in this industry that if I don't do that, that's just something that's like you have to. It's part of it. Like if you're not, it's just a wasted opportunity. But I can't sit down and edit stuff that has me playing on it. Like I just can't, and I have never figured out how to even wrap around. Like, buddy, just get down, start it. Like I can't. I paralyze.
I got stuff for you. So number one, a couple of the easy go-to strategies is that we would want to gamify it. Okay. So ADHD, we live in this sphere.
Kick the dopamine in. Kick it in.
Absolutely. So I would do something like, okay, I'm going to see how many posts that I can do in the length of this particular song. So I'm going to put a song on that's in the background, not related to what I'm doing on the post. And I'm literally going to be like,
again?
How many pieces of content can I create listening to Thunderstruck by AC/DC? Right. I literally would use music as this arbitrary like measuring stick. So I'd be like, and I do that with anything. It's like, even yesterday, I'm like, oh, I don't want to empty the dishwasher because I'd already done it twice. And I'm like, how do we use this many dishes? And I'm like, but I wonder if I could do it if I can do it before this song ends. So I would just throw in a song, and it happened to be Justin Bieber. And it was just like, okay, Bieber, it's me and you. Who's going to get and literally just like not only empty the dishwasher, loaded it, plus cleaned the kitchen and took out the recycling and came back in and like, that's how you do it. So use it, because as soon as our brain is like, oh my gosh, for real? Like it's a competition. Again, it's so music timelines is a big one. The other one is body doubling, which means I'm going to sit beside somebody else who's doing their social media content. And I'll be like, hey, I'm just going to sit with you and you do yours, I do mine. The other one, and this is a weird one that I think sometimes people misunderstand with ADHD, because it suggests that there's like a shallowness, and there isn't a shallowness. It's actually the opposite. There is a deep, deep emotional pool in ADHD. is the idea that nothing really motivates us the same way as spite. So like in spite. So if somebody says, hey, Brad, I don't think you can have 3 posts done by the end of the day. Yes, you will. You will have 3 times 3. So just a little dash of spite. It's not that we're shallow. It's just the
Tell me I
fact that
can't.
it
Tell me I
fires
can't.
us up. Exactly. Tell me
Tell
I
me I
can't.
can't.
Yeah.
This I've
Please tell
actually
me I can't.
never sat down with a psychologist or anyone or a therapist that in my history, because I've been to a lot of therapy, because as you know, ADHD people, again, you say emotional. I felt like at a very, oh, I almost got emotional there. I felt like at a very young age that I just felt the world differently.
Yeah.
Like that I, if, if somebody would say something, I couldn't go to I understand because I've been through that, but I would put myself in the position of automatically if that had happened to me and that was my friends, my dad, my mom, or whatever, that it would take me over and it would
Yeah.
control me. And I felt that that was like, oh, maybe it's just I have access to my emotions more. I've been through a lot. But it's insane to think that when you say something like that and go through that, it's just part of it because it's registered with me since I was like the first memories that I have
Yeah.
is that people always thought, oh, my parents used to call me whiny nagger. They
Yes.
did that. Like when I was a kid, they would be like, oh, Brad has the worst temper of all time. Till I was 14, you couldn't be around me in
Mhm.
public. I would blow up and then it just vanished.
Yep.
And I realized that that outward temper vanished inside and
Mhm.
that created conversations that I wasn't answering and affected my life until I was in my mid 30s until I
Yeah.
adjusted. But then you take it back, which the biggest mind blowing thing is to link this all. When
Yeah.
you said that you're going to do it, you're going to do it 50 times, you're going to do it the fastest ever. I would sit there with video games or anything that was time lapsed, and I wouldn't even go to other levels. I would sit there and constantly trying to beat the time. When I was a
Oh,
swimmer, I was
mhm.
such a good swimmer. I wouldn't change strokes. I would just absolutely try to crush my lowest times.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to, okay, well, how do you take all this information you have and then regulate it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I would make you're absolutely totally like in alignment on these ideas. And I feel for you because I personally have experienced what that feels like when you're a kid and just being like, my goodness, like if I was more like that, life would be way easier. Right. Like you look at kind of other people do. And it's not just that we feel it like deep in our like our bodies, like we feel it in our bones. Like is like it stings the heart and the empathy. And, I do get a wee bit nervous when people use language like empaths, because I feel like sometimes people just kind of like create ideas. But like, but like, it's like there's usually that's often a symptomology. It's the symptom of something else. And it's just like, it's those moments where it's like, it's not just that you like something, like you love it with your entire being. And it's like, again, we just feel things in a really big way. And, again, growing up, I remember having a sibling who would be like, I would love to talk to you about this, but you have to take emotion out of it. And it was like, that is the way that you literally will have me blow up if you tell me that you can't have to take emotion out of it. Right. So these big forces and feelings, again, we learn how to channel it, especially why I think sports is so amazing because we have a place to put it. We have rules. There's guardrails that are put up around us, around what we do and what we do not do on the field or court or wherever. And again, what we think about though is that, when you experience the world that way, it's a very much a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Right. It's so beautiful. And it has a really heavy price tag. And we have to ensure, I think, to be able to have like a good day by design is that we know those points and those pieces about ourselves. And we put ourselves in situations where, again, it's not only about regulation. We also give ourselves time to recover, because the world is big and the feelings are big and there's just a lot of moving parts. So regulation is key, but recovery is so important when we're able to just exhale, be safe simply as we are, and know that we're okay. And I think the key people in our lives, when you're around the right people who help us recover, and not like recovery, like addiction recovery, like literally just
Yeah.
like, you're on tour right now, you're on this bender. And I know we're not supposed to call work trips benders, but to me, they feel a wee bit like a bender.
Yeah.
And then you come back and you have some time to decompress, right? You have some time where you can just do the things that make sense for you to do and you can have that recovery. It feels really good to exhale.
I'm so excited that I get to tell you this. I've never said this out loud, even to the people closest to me. Um, I've I grew up and for people in the States, they won't understand, but like my dad would have been like the commissioner of the NFL, but for Canada's football league. And so when I grew up, I loved football. I was always in there. I got to walk around. I got to see my dad.
Yeah.
Like people come up to him, and my dad is the nicest, most humble
Yes.
person I've ever met in my life. And he's gracious and he's kind and he's sensitive. And he shook everyone's hand, and it didn't feed his ego. Like it did not
Yeah.
feed his ego. Like he didn't care. He loved meeting people, but he didn't care if Larry Smith was a big star.
Yeah.
But he was, and where I grew up in Quebec, like he was probably one of the most famous English people in
Yes.
French Canada. And so when I grew up, I couldn't like internalize what he was doing. So I just thought attention came with everything. And
Mhm.
so then I go into sports and I'm hyper great at sports at a young age. And then that attention comes and people are cheering for you. And it just became something that I thought was normal. I didn't
Yeah.
realize everybody else has a different experience. And it took me forever to realize that my personality was being fed by something that I didn't understand,
Mhm.
that I was drawn to these areas, or, even when The Bachelor found me, I didn't apply or anything. Like the
Mhm.
chances of them finding me were zip zero nothing. But
Yeah.
my friend just dry pitched me one day when he ran into this girl randomly.
Yeah.
Like, and when I got through that phase, here's the most shocking part is that your gas tank for your dopamine is at 100%, right?
Mhm.
Well, then I get to go on The Bachelor, and I'm doing things that you can't even describe. Like people go, "How's the show?" I go, "It's the greatest thing you'll ever do." You
Yeah.
get gas. You're going on helicopters, doing things that you can't afford to do. I
Yes.
remember I turned to a girl during a date and was like, "Don't get too comfortable in the helicopter. I can't afford the gas."
Yeah.
But so then I equate it to my
Yeah.
dopamine now is at 200%,
Yeah.
and you're just not built for that. So then you come out and you're on, like just in the States, you're on magazines, you're on TV
Yeah.
shows. Everybody in Canada for 2 years knows exactly who you are. You can't walk around, and
Yeah.
you're trying to acclimatize. But then no matter how good the jobs are
Yeah.
next, Chop Canada,
Mhm.
the Big Bake, whatever I've done, you'll never get back to that first high that
Yeah.
was this everybody knowing you. And you have to like rationalize that you're not getting less cool, or it's not
Mhm.
about you, it's just a natural phase. And you have to tell yourself it might never get back to that high of what you felt the first time, but
Yeah.
you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But it took me 13 years to
Yeah.
understand I was wired and always trying to get back up to that
Mhm.
height. And it's okay that it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
And,
And
and
what you're describing, if it's okay to just put kind of put a through line through it, that is what we call hedonic adaptation. So hedonic adaptation means that we have like a goal or an experience, and as soon as we have it, that becomes our new baseline. And so that's why we never feel quite satisfied. So you might remember, for example, like your first car or your first job, or maybe your first championship that you won with the Gales. Like you remember that, and it's like nothing quite is as good as that was, right? So what happens is our brain, and this isn't just traits of ADHD, this is literally what we see in high performers, is that hedonic adaptation sets in, we become our new baseline, and then we again just it's like, okay, next, right? Like we don't feel satisfied the same way, and we have these moments where you're like, damn, I remember how good that first whatever that was, and we tend to memorialize it because it felt so good. And this is how we evolve as high performers. And I think Kobe was one of the best perspectives when he talked about, he didn't use the language hedonic adaptation, when he said what will differentiate a sustained high performer is that we are okay doing the boring parts, like that we are okay in the
yeah,
boring parts. So
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, it's not going to always be, helicopter rides and all these things. It's like, okay, we know that about ourselves. We know that we're constantly at leveling up, and we're all in this place of evolution. And when we do the basics well and are okay in the boredom of just doing the basic stuff well, is when we actually hit excellence.
Oh God, I wish, because my thing is I'm trying to get better at it, but I realized it so late in life, and I took like a decade of not thinking that I wasn't talented or wasn't good, but like, am I losing steam? Has something changed? Like, I was so, and I've always been so critical of myself. Like,
Yeah.
I filmed here. I've never done it in a room just by myself. And we go live on the air. Oh, Bubba,
Sorry. Oh no, it's okay. Oh, come here. It's okay. It's okay. Here,
he's
you
so
can have
cute.
this duck. Sorry, Brad. Just
Don't.
the duck took the other. The dog took the other duck. Okay, there's two
I
ducks. We're good. Okay, there you go. Sorry, listeners, if you were watching this, there are puppies involved, and ducks, and navy blue has decided
He's
she's had enough.
so cute.
So we're good. Please continue.
Oh
You're
no, I
yes.
don't. ADHD. I don't remember what I was saying. Honestly,
Stop.
I swear. Um.
We're good. We're
Yeah, I
good.
don't.
You know what? I love the fact we're like, and cut. Brad, you're a treat. Yeah,
I
and cut.
don't,
Yes. No,
I
you're
don't
good.
even. I know, but that happens. Like, oh, okay. I was just gonna say it happens even when I was interviewing you. I'll be just dead on in the conversation. You'll say one thing to me, and I have to. Like, it won't get out of my head.
Yes.
I'll ignore what you're saying,
Yeah.
trying to keep that one train of thought, so that when you're done your sentence, I can ask you that question because it
Yep.
was the most pertinent.
Yes.
And I need to feel energy. So then now you've stopped your sentence, and my ADHD goes, "Oh, we lost it," and now
Yeah.
it's dead air coming, and now you're gonna humiliate yourself. So
Yeah.
you better tap dance,
Yep.
MFer, or else you're
Yeah.
gonna like
Yeah.
not be. You're gonna look like an idiot, and so then fight or flight kicks in, and I can redo it. But I've
Yeah.
been trying so hard to get off of that, but it's such a hard process because, again, I spent 10 years thinking, oh, how do I get back to that feeling of
Yes.
being where that was? Even though the shows I've done are bigger and better, it was never what, you
Yeah.
know, that moment was, to go from nobody to somebody infamously known by everyone as that
Yeah.
guy from that thing.
I appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate that. And I absolutely have no idea how someone would stick handle that, right? Like our wee little egos, right, are just, I don't think, designed to be able to do that. And, you can, play it off and be like, okay, I have to make my amigo, my ego, my amigo, and I have to work with this part
I
of
love
me.
that.
And it's just like, you know what, maybe some of this stuff is like, it never will make sense. And we figure out what do we do with some of those pieces and parts. So then that way, again, we can co-create big, bright futures, which clearly you have done. Now, Brad, I want to send all of the people your way so they can learn more about the work that you are doing. You have this amazing ability to talk, especially with politics and a lot of world events, in just such a refreshing way that still gives me hope in democracy. So how do
Oh,
we
thank
encourage
you.
people to hear you learn more about the work that you're doing today? So that way people can also have the opportunity just to see that democracy can be alive and well in Canada.
Well, first off, I almost started bawling there because I hate compliments. They don't hit, and that one hit, mostly because it makes me think that and know that I'm my father's son, pure centrist.
Yes.
And when you're in this bubble of TV and everyone just sees, let's take Choplin. For chef think they have what it takes with that voice and the
Yes.
hair and the suit. When you go and do something like go on a conservative leading station, but claim you're a centrist, everyone goes, you're a radical right winger. And
Yes.
over the last 5 months, I've been able to show people that there is a way to have your thoughts and your beliefs be coherently heard, be exactly yourself.
Yes.
And not that I'm out there to show people I'm a centrist, but I just know that more people need to understand both sides can talk,
Yeah.
that discourse is dying and it needs to come back. And that regardless if you don't agree with me or you do agree with me, that shouldn't matter. The conversation is what matters and the openness is what matters. And I just believe that when you look at someone, I'm the most socially liberal guy you'll ever meet, and I'm fiscally conservative. And
Yeah.
you get targeted as being a right-wing person and you just want to go, listen, you can say whatever you want, but just spend 2 minutes understanding how I break something down. And if it's
Yeah.
not for you, well, then let's have a conversation about
That's
why
right.
it isn't, versus going name calling. And that goes for both sides. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? That is
Absolutely.
a far right, far left thing. And I'm just very grateful that in the evolution of my career, people after The Bachelor said never do anything.
Yes.
People, when I got into food, said don't go into food, you'll be pigeonholed. Well, then I opened up restaurants, and now you're in it for good. When those closed, you'll never. I went into, then I went into a political show, and everyone
Yeah.
goes, why is this guy going to be the guy to do it? And I just said, because uniquely, at the core of who I am, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I
Mhm.
don't want to be mean to anybody. And yeah, I might say things here and there that are salacious, but those aren't hurtful opinions. Those are my thought out factual opinions that my analytic ADHD
Yes.
brain is working through. They're not
Yes.
just impulse reactions because I just don't have that. And so when, Chorus and 640 and iHeartRadio offered me this opportunity, I said, absolutely. And people go, well, how do you think about being perceived? I go, I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
grateful that for 13 years, I was a mannequin tap dancing on TV, reading a script. And finally, at 42 years old, after all this ADHD stuff, my emotional needs that I couldn't meet at the time, I get a platform where I get to be 100% me on mainstream media without somebody putting parameters around me. And it just is like, it's the most freeing gift that I've ever been given. Oh,
Oh, that's so well said. It's so true. And as somebody who usually like avoids a lot of that just because it feels so toxic and it feels so polarizing, being able to tune into your show, knowing it is so thoughtful that again, it is the heart of democracy that you can do discourse, which I also agree. It's right up there with driving a manual and cursive writing. They're becoming lost arts. But it's like, I think of you like writing your notes in cursive, driving a manual, having discourse because like you absolutely get it. So, Brad, thank you for the work that you do on your show. And we'll make sure to do all of the links and we will make sure to take care of some of those socials for you to encourage people to find you because you're totally worth finding for who you are as a person outside of many of the roles that you've carried. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And I hope we can have many, many more conversations because I really believe it's going to help people. So, Brad, thanks for making time for this.
oh my God. It's my absolute pleasure. And I say this wholeheartedly. I'm like an energy person. I can understand if I want to spend 10 seconds or 10 years around somebody. And you're just like an absolute gem. And I know that because when you say nice things about me, I hear them because I know that you mean them. And I appreciate that. And just all the love back. You actually made me almost cry 3 times.
Oh, careful. You might catch a feeling.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Brad.
much for this.
Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.